The topic, the situation is catastrophic, but not serious.
I hope this works. First, let me emphasize that I am really sincerely honored to be here, not only because there are many of my friends among the professors, but also because I'm well aware of the role CUNY plays, not only in pure abstract academic life, but also in the sphere of the public engagement of intellectuals. So, again, to repeat, I'm grateful and honored to be here. So, let me begin. Yes, just another remark. I hope you will not be disappointed. This is a talk about our present global situation. And I cannot emphasize enough that I find myself in a situation which is in itself a little bit ridiculous. I just finished an 800 pages book on Hegel. And now I had to force myself, you know, like in Aristophanes' play Clouds, where he has Socrates and those guys up there in some chairs with ropes fixed up. So I somehow had to step down and like to be absolutely clear, there is maybe an element of not subjective but objective bluffing in what I'm saying. Like, this is really not my domain. But let's see, you are the judges. Okay. A century ago, Gilbert Keith Chesterton ironically proposed to install a, quote, special corps of policemen who are also philosophers. Here is a quote. The work of the philosophical policeman is at once bolder and more subtle than that of the ordinary detective. The ordinary detective goes to odd houses to arrest thieves. We, philosophical policemen, we go to artistic tea parties to detect pessimists. The ordinary detective discovers from a ledger or a diary that a crime has been committed. We discover from a book of sonnets that a crime will be committed. We have to trace the origin of those dreadful thoughts that drive men on at last to intellectual fanaticism and intellectual crime. End of quote. It's from his classical novel, Chesterton's The Man Who Was Thursday. Would thinkers, now it's easy to laugh at this, but would thinkers as different as Popper, Adorno and Levinas also not subscribe to a slightly changed version of this same idea, where actual political crime is called totalitarianism and the philosophical crime is condensed in the notion of totality? According to this and some other thinkers, a straight road leads from the philosophical notion of totality to political totalitarianism, and the task of philosophical police is to discover from a book of Plato's Dialogues or a treatise on social contract by Rousseau that a political crime will be committed. Endeavor. As a Hegelian, I say yes, but with a twist missed by Chesterton. We do not destroy the existing order. We are just bringing out the way this order is destroying itself. Recall, as a minimal elementary model, Proudhon's old dialectical motto, property is theft. The negation of negation is here the shift from theft as a distortion, negation, violation of property, to the dimension of theft inscribed into the very notion of property. Nobody has the right to fully own means of production, their nature is inherently collective, and so on. And thus, ultimately, the same not go for nature itself. Here, the negation of negation is the shift from the idea that we, humans, in our hubris, are violating some natural balanced order, to the idea that imposing on reality, such a radical ecology is there is no nature. This passage from the distortion of a notion to a distortion constitutive of this notion is what is enacted in the Hegelian notion of totality. Totality for Hegel is not an ideal of organic whole, but a critical notion. To locate a phenomenon in its totality does not mean to see the hidden harmony of the whole, but to include into a system its symptoms, antagonisms, inconsistencies as its necessary integral parts. In other words, the Hegelian totality is by definition self-contradictory and antagonistic. The whole, which is the true, is the whole plus its symptoms, unintended consequences which betray its untruth. For example, for Marx, the totality of capitalism includes crisis as its integral moment. For Freud, the totality of a human subject includes pathological symptoms as the indicators of what is repressed in the official image of the subject. The underlying premise is, I think it's important to repeat it, would be what I call the Starbucks logic. You know what you encounter when you go to a Starbucks coffee shop. Basically, the message is true. Our coffee is a little bit more expensive, but 1 cent from every coffee goes for Guatemala children, 5 cents goes for water, for blah, blah, blah. In other words, the logic is the following one, and in a perverse way, I like it. The logic is, in the old days, we were consumerists, and then we felt bad, and if you wanted to pretend to be an ethical being, you had to do something to counteract it. But the offer here is, we make it simpler for you. We make the product. You can remain just a consumerist because your altruistic nature, solidarity with poor, is included into the price. The price, this is what I called in one of my books, a product which I myself bought in LA, chocolate laxative, you know. Chocolate is allegedly a danger of constipation, but the nice trick was that to add something to chocolate itself so that it's its own counteragent. Again, I claim that this is the horror of so-called, this is then what today is called ethical capitalism. And I think it's maybe the most dangerous way of today's ideology, because as every efficient ideology, it presents itself as anti-ideology. I mean, I remember when I was young, it was usually leftists who spoke this speech of urgency, you know. You there in the developed world, you live in your ivory tower, aren't you aware that, whatever, could it be, children in Africa are starving and so on and so on. Did you notice that now people like Bill Gates talk like this? Why? Just listen closely, read what they are saying. The message is this one. Let's stop our boring ideological debate, capitalism, socialism. People are starving there. Let's all get together, businessmen, government, NGOs, and let's do something. In other words, the message is don't think, do. Or, the other way around, do, so that you will not have to think. Which is why I find disgusting all those ads that you find, you remember, in newspapers often or on TV, usually some black kid with a twisted lips, and then the message, for a price of a couple of cappuccinos, you can save his life. But the true message, we know what it is. For the price of a couple of cappuccinos, you can forget about him. You keep your duty, you can go on. So again, this is crucial, I think, that humanitarianism in all forms, charity and so on, it's absolutely integral part of today's capital's reproduction. Here enters a more refined defense of capitalism, which, while admitting that the capitalist exploitation of nature is part of the problem, tries to resolve it by way of